Hi there, my name's Nikki and I work for DIA, the Art of Creative Thinking, and today I'm going to have a crack at showing you how to paint an abstract. So there's a couple of ways you can approach it. I usually have some sort of reference. So today I've got this reference, which I don't know if you can see. It looks to me like there's a horizon, and this is maybe a lake or water here in the front, and there's a bit of a storm happening in the back. So anyway, let's see how we go. Abstracts really are probably more difficult to do than lots of people think. But this is a way where if you pick a palette, so the palette that I've selected, the cool colours with a little bit of yellow. So I'm going to use phthalo blue, a mid green, a white. I'll mix up a grey with black and white, and I've got silver that I'm going to use as my highlight. So using a big brush, let's see what happens. So put some white on the canvas, because I want to keep these colours soft. And what happens is acrylic paint dries quite quickly, but we'll have about probably 10 minutes before that happens. So we'll get lots of white on, which of course you can't see on the camera. But if you're following along at home, we're going to cover the whole canvas in white. Yeah, so abstracts, I find, are interesting because if you embrace contrast, lots of different things can come out. So if you just want to paint without a reference, what you can do is you might do a thin dark line, and then the contrast to that would be a thick light coloured line, for instance. But yeah, today people seem to like having moody sort of palettes, moody sort of colour schemes that are quite, so once I start to put the colour over this white, you'll see what happens. Yeah, so you might want to paint an abstract to hang in your bathroom or somewhere in your house. So you might already have picked out your colours of your cushions and your lounge, and so that's a good way to approach things. And then this sort of secret, I suppose, is mixing. Once you've picked your colours, like today I'm going to mix up probably about 4 or 5 different blues. You can mix a lot of different colours within that range. Right, I think we've got most of that board covered. So I'm just using acrylic paint. That really is great because it does dry so quickly, so you can do lots of layers without interfering. Right, so we've got the white on. Now have a look at the reference. So we'll put in the horizon, and we'll have some darker colours through here, and then that sort of mistiness through the bottom. So I'm going to mix up. I want to mix up a sort of turquoisey sort of green. So I'm using green and blue. Right, now I'm going to put this. So the horizon here is probably going to come in about there. And some nice things start to happen when you go over that white that you might like. Like, see how that highlight's coming through? You might decide to keep that. Now, we do need to keep this horizon very straight. You might want to use a ruler. Right. So then, I'm just going to add a little bit of dark blue just here. Okay, that's looking good. Above that, I want to have a little tiny colour change just across the top. And then if you want to blend your colour, you can see how I've used horizontal sort of strokes this way. And then you can pull that colour down like that and it gives you more of a blend of your colours. And then back over the top. So it's a combination of doing horizontal strokes and then pulling it through. You don't really want to see any white canvas right on that horizon. Bit of water, just to help blend. I quite like how that's working. Now we're going to add a bit of darkness. So I don't really like using black because once you use black you can get your painting too dark. But I'm going to use a tiny touch of black. So I'm going to use some black. I'm going to add some white so it's more of a grey than a black. And remember, we've still got white on that canvas that will be wet. The other thing that you can use is a sprayer to keep your canvas wet. So I'm just putting this darkness down. Put some white in. I'm going to do that pulling through again, so I haven't got that line. So we want to have this sort of, this edge blurred. Pull that down. Get some water. Pull that right down through to the bottom of the canvas. Now there's lots of things you can use. You can use sponges, you can use palette knives. Today I'm just using a brush because I figure most of you would have a brush. Alright, just get this down. So what we're going to do is we want to have a bit of darkness down the bottom here, and we're then going to put some light over the top of it. I'll show you how to blend. So I'm adding quite a bit of water just so I can cover my canvas quickly. Right. And as you do this sort of backwards and forwards, sometimes you see some really good stuff that you might want to keep. I'm going to get rid of that dark edge there. So all I've done there is use water to blend it. Okay. A bit more dark. Yeah, so while I'm painting this, I'm sort of thinking, you know, where am I? What can I see? I do feel like I'm in a lake. Almost there. Okay, that's looking great. So now what I want to do is put some light into this area, and I want to also, while the paint's still wet at the top, it's quite light up there. I'm going to use, I've got some metallic silver paint. I'm going to try that out and use that up here. Over the white, that's quite nice. Nice and thick. And the other thing you might want to go for is a bit of texture. So I have got some modelling paste that I'll use as well to create some texture. You want to put a bit of pressure, so sometimes you have to hold the canvas when you do that, so you can really get your bristles running across. Now I'm not worried about bumping into that green. So I might want to calm that colour down. If your green's a bit dark, I feel like I figure that's a wee bit dark. I'm just going to add a bit more white. Put some white over that grey. So abstract really is abstracting reality. And there's all sorts of different abstracts. Some things might just have an abstracted background and have some realism in the front. If you look at this is a bit of an abstract, but it's got quite a realistic face with lots of sort of swirly colours. So you class that as a sort of abstract painting. And so is this one. This one's a little bit abstracty as well, reminiscent of one of the Impressionists. And even this peacock's quite abstract. This is using a palette knife, but you can see there's quite a lot of realism happening just with the head, but the rest of it's quite rough and abstracted. Like there isn't peacock feathers that you know, ordinarily you'd be looking for turquoise and green feathers. A bit more white. Like I said, I'm going to run over that green a bit. Still wet. See how that sort of, I'm putting some pressure on it using my brush, and suddenly it softened it. Let's take that one across. Right. Now, we want to lighten up this bottom area. Let's mix up some white. And instead of using cross strokes, I'm going to start sort of creating that illusion of reflections by pulling my brush down. Gee, you need quite a bit of white. I find that it's probably the tone that I use the most. I'm always running out of white paint. While you're doing this though, you can use a cross stroke. See how that's created like a watery effect? So try that again. So you might want to have really bright sort of white and then fading off into a grey. And then we'll work out where our focal point really is. I think our focal point's going to sit on the horizon. Okay, so that's nice and white through there. Now, quickly, while the paint's still wet, more water. When you want to blend two colours together, what I do is use the two colours and sort of bump them into each other. And then you sort of pull. So at the moment, I want to get rid of that dark line. So I'm introducing a bit of white up there. And I want to soften that all. For a sec. It's probably not a bad idea to have a reference that you like, especially if you're brand new at painting abstracts. But some people are just fantastic, they just go for it, and you know, they haven't got a reference in mind, and you know, they come up with some great stuff. Let's get a bit more of the turquoise, which was green and blue. Green to that. So it's lots of layers of colour that you end up doing to create, I suppose, the depth that you want to find. If you just put down one colour, you just end up with some stripes. So I'll put some more dark back into that in a sec. See how I'm flicking that over the top of the darkness? I'm just getting rid of that line a little bit. I also want to create this sort of downward movement away from that horizon that we started off with. This is another way that you can blend colour, by sort of doing a circular motion, and it pulls the colour from underneath with the colour that you're putting on top. And you come in that's quite a nice finish. Just experiment, just have a bit of fun. Now we'll get some more of that dark grey, which was, it's probably about 20% black and 80% white. The sort of grey that I'm looking for. Mid-grey, a mid-grey. So we just want to darken this up a wee bit through here. I think I want this to be a bit darker. This is going to be the focal area here. Let's pull that down a wee bit. So it's a matter of pulling and pushing. Okay. I like the way that's coming along down the bottom here. It's looking good. Right. There's that white that I liked earlier. See, it's still wet underneath. Just give it a bit more water. You have to be a wee bit careful, because what can happen here is you can end up just with a grey canvas, which isn't what we want today. You still want to keep some of that blue, but you will find that you just pop a bit more of that colour back in again if you've got rid of everything. So let's just put a bit more of that bluey green back in, I think. Bit of water. So phthalo blue and a mid-green I'm mixing, with a dash of white. And if it's a bit too blue, you can mix your colours on the canvas as well. I feel like that's a bit too blue. I want it to be more of a turquoisey teal green. So I'm going to add some green straight onto that. And you'll see that will change the colour into the colour that you want. But don't be nervous. I think one of the things is you just got to dare to be brave, you know. Don't be panicked. We're just here having a bit of fun. And if you like it, you hang it on the wall, and if you don't, you can paint over it. Some of the best abstracts I've done, I've painted over. I did a big commission not long ago, 2.5 metres by 900, and I think there were 3 paintings underneath it. So that's looking good. So now, once you've got your base, this is where you think, okay, what are we going to do? I do want to add some darkness into this. So I am putting some black with a tiny bit of white just through like that, sort of in the areas where I feel it needs the depth, and then I'm just going to pull that down with my brush. Okay, so when you get to this point, you can really go to town yourself. I think what I'd like to do is put some contrast along the horizon. But I'm very happy with that sort of moody base. And I think if you really want to blend your colours, just remember to go over up and down and then back and across so that you can sort of get rid of any lines. But yeah, I'm going to put some contrast into the horizon and then I think I'm happy with it. So come and paint with us at Paint for Fun and Dia, where we do crazy things. And abstract's one of the things that we're looking at sort of, you know, teaching, because it is an area that is a bit different, and it means that, you know, you're putting your own spirit into things. So if you like this, give us a thumbs up, and yeah, maybe we'll put some abstract classes together that we can teach you in the studio. Thanks again. It was great seeing you. Bye now.